When you're lying in bed at night, do you ever randomly remember some relatively minor social missteps or poorly chosen words you did said years earlier, and then beat yourself up over it even though it really wasn't a big deal? If so, what happened? I was in 5th grade or so and I was sitting in class with a couple classmates. We were talking about Weird Al songs we liked. This one girl asked, "Have you heard some Weird Al song?" and I followed with, "Have you ever heard I'm So Sick of You?" which I guess they hadn't heard because she looked immediately down at the desk, sort of somber, and the dudes did a little ho-ho as if I did a nice burn. I guess they thought I was telling this girl I was so sick of her. I had no clue at the time though, so I just let it ride. Still feel bad about that one. I often lie in bed thinking about an obnoxious thing from grade 9 I wrote in someone's school yearbook. I'm 38 years old. Ha. I had one of those too. In the 8th grade I wrote something mean in a girl's yearbook along with, "Just kidding," at the end, which I thought made it a joke. Apparently it hurt the girl's feelings and her parents called my parents about it. I hadn't thought about it in years though, until reading your comment. Thanks. I was 8 and I was at church in the kids service and they always picked a kid to participate and they'd usually get a prize after. That day they chose by asking us why we should get to go up and I literally said my aunt works here so I deserve it. I was an entitled little crap. Every time I remember it I die a little inside. When I was 12 me and my mate found our favorite English teacher's Facebook account and found out that he was a pretty big alcoholic. My mate told everyone about this and we both got detention the whole week because of it. The worst thing wasn't the detention. It was the fact that the teacher no longer liked us and he put less effort in his class, making us mostly do book work. I was discussing a recent surgery I had at work to a bunch of people, including a lady with spina bifida who lives in a wheelchair. I specifically was talking about how annoyed I was by not being able to walk for 3 weeks. I revisit that one a lot. In year 1 or 2, I had a bigger vocab than most of the other kids, and I just discovered the word feline. We were, I think, talking about what it'd be like to transform into animals, and I wanted to say that it'd be cool to turn into a feline, because I loved cats. What came out was I really want to turn into a female. I had a crush on this one girl all throughout elementary school. I'm talking the only girl I liked and always wanted to be with her. Well, once I got into 6th grade I decided to make my move. My bright idea, I'm cringing at the thought of it, was to just randomly email her via our school emails. Just random stuff out of the ordinary. I fucking hate myself. Even worse, I never really talked to her before and still am kinda an introvert. Oh, and one more thing. Her brother, younger, found out and told me she was with a guy. I thanked him and cried for hours when I got home. And that's the story about how I became socially awkward. Don't worry, I did the same thing at that age. I had to sit next to him at the computers. He got really creeped out when he checked his email and had a huge laugh with his friends. I have ADHD and this is basically my life. If I had $1 for every time I ran my mouth before my brain thought better of it, I wouldn't need to work anymore. And nighttime brain loves to dwell on each and every one. Oh gosh, this comment is too relatable. Crap just flies out of my mouth and sometimes I even have the nerve to look surprised at what I just said. Went swimming with a group of friends as a kid to the local pool, probably 11. Girl in the friend group jumped on my back while I was underwater. She was just being playful. It freaked me out because I was coming up and already short of breath. But I played it off trying to be cool. An hour later I was describing what happened to my other friend and explained, and then I felt this big fat weight on me and I couldn't breathe. I didn't realize the girl was behind me. She burst into tears and she ran home crying. I have never felt so small. I remember that moment and still feel terrible 20 years later. I learned in that moment that it's important to choose my words. Because I wanted to describe how I felt being underwater and scared, but I didn't have a developed way to articulate it. Because I used those words, she became the object of the story. It became about her fatness, then about my scaredness. I didn't mean to call her fat, but I did. And to any bystander or observer, they would justly see me as a bully. Dang. When I was 17, I worked at a CVS. One of my co-workers was a guy my age who went to a different school. He was really cute, but he had a girlfriend who was away at college, and besides, I was in no position to date. Meanwhile, the love of my life had broken up with me, but I didn't want him to know how much he had hurt me, so I was determined to have a date to the homecoming dance. I thought of my co-worker who was good looking, and because he went to another school, no one would have to know my love life was crap, and I had a friend take me to the dance. I asked him if he'd go with me, as friends, but somehow the wires got crossed and he thought I was actually asking him out. After work one day, he asked if he could talk to me, and he went into this long speech about how he has a girlfriend and he loves her very much and he can't disrespect her by going to the dance with me. All of that was fine. I wasn't mad or anything, except I'm a stress laugher, and it struck me as funny that he thought I wanted to date him when the reality was that I didn't want to date anyone except the love of my life. Of course, all of that is difficult to explain as a mature adult, let alone a 17-year-old girl, so I just laughed. I think about it sometimes and think to myself about how ridiculous the whole situation was, and I wish I could go back and explain it to my ex-co-worker, but I can't even remember his first name. Hey, this might seem a tad bit off topic, but thanks for posting this story. I'm kinda in a similar situation as you were, in the sense that I'm 17 and the guy I thought I was gonna spend a long time with just broke up with me. It helps to read your post and see that it's kinda stupid to get stuck up over this guy when I'm as young as I am. I've always been overweight. My whole life, even as a little kid. Never really got made fun of for it though. This is the first, and probably the only time I got made fun of for it, to my face anyway. I was in 7th grade, and I was in a small classroom of about 8 people. This very thin girl held up her arm and made a comment about her arm fat. There was clearly nothing there. Her arm was a thin twig. I just kind of rolled my eyes in my mind. The teacher, a man around 35, told her, "You're not fat. Girls always think they're fat," something like that. He points around the class to each person repeating, "You're not fat. You're not fat. You're not fat," to everyone. He saved me for last, pointed at me, and didn't say anything. A couple people in class chuckled. Extremely inappropriate thing for the teacher to do, and I've never forgotten it. Bro, that teacher for sure lies awake nights cringing over this. In 7th grade, some girl was wearing a Goonies shirt. I had no idea what it was, but it looked like a punk band or something, and she was preppy, so my emo butt tried to act offended and said, "Do you even listen to the Goonies? Well, Mayo, this would be a great bit if you ever have a comedy special." I was raised very religious and my grandparents are very good people, but they occasionally make a comment about racial stereotypes. When I was in 2nd grade, I heard my grandpa say something about Indian people not driving well, and I didn't question it. Being the edgy kid I was, I wanted to sound cool or something and repeat it. I did so by loudly answering a teacher's question in Sunday school with something containing the words "Asian people can't drive." Immediately after, I accidentally made eye contact with the Asian girl in my class, who was one of the kindest, sweetest people I've ever met. Even not realizing the gravity of my statement, I still saw the look on her face and felt awful. So yay, that keeps me up a lot. 8th grade advanced math teacher has us fill out a get to know you sheet the first day of school. Asked what our pet peeve was. I didn't know what pet peeve meant, so I put cats, as I love cats. Her room was decorated with kitten posters and she was a huge cat lady. She never liked me. My pet peeve is when people decide that they dislike me as a person because my interests are a carbon copy of their interests. Last year, a friend invited me over for a night of casual fricking. She noticed how shy I was and really put forth a ton of effort to make me comfortable. I was super nervous and couldn't maintain an erection. She was so sweet about it, but it fricking haunts me daily. Man, I should make new friends. When I was about 8, for some reason I thought that the word virgin was bad. So when my stepbrother, at the time, started calling me names, I thought it would be a good idea to fire back with, "Well, at least I'm not a virgin." And my dad's eyes got really wide, and he quickly explained to me what I had just said. 11 years later, I am still embarrassed. My dad Wilder high-fived me. Back in 6th grade, a new girl came to our school. We were making introductions at lunch and getting along fairly well. She lived in my neighborhood, so I saw her and her brother get on the bus in the morning. Her brother was a bit shy on the bus and didn't talk to anyone. I saw him at lunch on my way to my table to eat and waved. He did a weird head bob thing and smiled. I thought he was being a goof. I laughed and turned to the new girl and said, "What's with your brother? Why is he acting retarded?" Well, she broke out into tears and ran away. My friend turned to me and said, "What the frick is wrong with you?" and ran after the new girl. Turns out her brother is actually retarded. Capital F. I always physically cringe when I remember I told my crush in 9th grade I liked her cause I thought she liked me too, but after some reflection I realized it was basic kindness. I was in like 9th or 10th grade I think, and I was making out with this girl in my basement, and all of a sudden I think it's a good idea to whisper in her ear, "Blow me," in the weirdest and softest voice. It somehow makes it worse typing it out. During my high school years I never ate breakfast because I just wanted to sleep in that little bit more before heading to school. One day in year 7 morning Spanish class, our lovely Spanish teacher was handing out chocolate digestives for every right answer we give. I got one right and got my deserved reward. The next person next to me also got the answer right, but they didn't want the reward, so she asked if anyone wanted to have the biscuit instead, so of course I instinctively put my hand up. Voila! I got a second basket, but what haunts me is how I ate that second heavenly snack. As she handed me the biscuit I was still going through the first biscuit and IDKY, but as I received that second treat I just made a tiny coin-like slit with my mouth and inserted that biscuit like you would when inserting a coin to play in the arcade. I cannot forget the looks everyone in the class gave me as they tried to compute WTF just happened. I guess I played myself : Back in elementary school when it was time to go, all the kids would be lined up by the entrance and wait for their parents. Well, I saw my dad's car and went full speed running to it, jumped in, buckled up, ready to go. I look up, and that is not my dad. I had just jumped into the van of someone else's parent and I unbuckled and hurried back to the group trying to hide in shame. I'm 21 now, so this was about 11-12 years ago. I was contemplating on how to talk to this girl I like so much. We are in the same neighborhood. One day we were gonna walk past each other and she smiled at me, and I looked away and continued walking. Goddamn, she caught me off guard. That was a year ago. Now whenever I see her, I just pretend to have weak eyesight that I didn't see her smile at me. Where's the time machine when you need it? I saw a cute girl and thought I'd ask her out. I just asked her if she wanna go out for a coffee with me. She said she was not interested. Instead of saying something clever to save my face, I blurted out, "Please." I'll rue that moment forever. Between sophomore and junior year in high school I went on a summer study program. I was an awkward teen, who wasn't? But I thought at the time I was the only awkward one of the bunch. There was a competition I wanted to sing in it. I can't sing. I chose a song to sing that was a classic, but the version they put on was a remix. I couldn't keep the timing or anything. So on stage I made a signal to cut the music and walked off stage after performing poorly in the middle of the song. Now that's a lot of damage. I constantly think about the woman at Men's Warehouse that I told was my birthday when I went to go pick up my suit she helped me pick out. When I said it was my 21st birthday, she said if I wasn't working right now, I'd totally buy you a drink, to which I responded, haha, yay, thanks, and left. That took me like 3 weeks to realize what a moron I am. I mean, it was probably just for your birthday. Buying someone a 21st birthday drink is just a congratulations as fairly common. I doubt there was any deeper subtext like trying to get into your pants. Made fun of a girl because her brother had a coke addiction. I was super drunk and had a crush on this girl, so I have no idea why I did that. Haunts me to think about today. In a comics convention, I met a cartoonist I really like and said my favorite thing by him was insert title from another author with the same theme. He corrected me and said that this was by another guy I also really like. The worst part was me asking him if he was sure. I tease his goddamned comic. More on me. I stole my sister's boyfriend when I was 16. I'm not proud of it and she's still mad at me. He was 8 years older than me. Should have added that. I probably would be on edge with you meeting my boyfriend from then on, TBH. I've been overthinking everything I ever said or ever done, and now my brain's so deep in a web that my head has spun. I still think about when I said you too to the delivery man when he said enjoy your pizza. One instance I can remember off the top of my head was in middle school. This girl I thought I was friends with came up to me in between classes in the hallway. I thought she was gonna say hi, but she slapped me hard. She went in to say she knows I'm a two-faced bee, and that my constant happy attitude and smile was creepy and disgusting. I wish I would have done more than just stand there frozen. Turned out, some other girl threw me under the bus for something she herself did. This kind of thing, the screaming and slapping me in the face, happened multiple times throughout school though. I stopped smiling after that. Once at summer camp when I was maybe 11 years old, I met these twins who were also at summer camp. I only knew them for the 5 days of camp and, even then, not that well. At one point, I told one of the twins that he was my favorite of the two twins. I didn't realize until right after I spoke, but the other one was in earshot. He looked so crushed. It was such a dumb thing to say. I'm in my 30s now. I feel so terrible and I'm sure both of them have forgotten it, but I can't let it go. I took my car to the local garage and after the mechanic finished the repairs he said it should run nicely. Now I for some stupid, idiotic, moronic, foolish reason said you too. It's never stopped haunting me for 4 years. This is similar, but different, in that it's a no yes moment. In first grade, we'd just gotten an alphabet rug. Huge, oval, and like 7 feet. I always got a stomach bug around Valentine's Day. The rule was, don't throw up on the new rug. Well, I threw up, and it made it clear over the rug, into the hallway. I was crying, because A, vomiting is embarrassing, and B, that crap hurts. Stomach acid should not touch the throat. But, because I didn't break the rules, everyone started cheering for me, because that meant everyone would get a piece of candy the day I get back from mandatory out of school recovery. Half cringe, half victory. I wish I only did this in bed at night. Reviewing every mistake I've ever made, at least the ones I remember, is a pretty big chunk of my day. On my graduation I accidentally kissed my principal in mouth. Was supposed to be just a cheek kiss but it went badly. I still think about that with disgust. When I was 11 or 12 I was at a party with some cool kids that I was excited to be invited to. We were doing 11-year-old cool kid stuff like playing spin the bottle. The host of the party, Nick, ended up kissing some girl I can't remember her name. Let's call her Beth. Later on Nick's stepdad came downstairs to check on us. When he asked us how things were going, the girl I had a crush on, Anna, for some reason started to blurt out Nick kissed Beth, but stopped short realizing her mistake. Me to the rescue. I pick up where she left off and for some inexplicable reason tell Nick's dad that Nick kissed Beth. Silence and confusion among all, even Nick's dad, who chooses to ignore the comment completely. I was mostly treated with a kind of pity and curiosity after that. Some of them asked me why I did that and I just didn't say anything in response. Pretty funny really. Bonus cringe. When I was in 9th or 10th grade I was temporarily a born-again Christian. In English class we did an exercise where we went around listing things we would take from the house if there was fire. When it was my turn I admonished the class with I can't believe no one has said their Bible yet, as if the most popular and available book in the world was the most important thing to save from a house fire. I'm pretty sure I was smugly playing with my cross necklace while I said this. There's one girl I used to be really rude to and I would try to annoy her. I regret that now because we are in the same field and so I see her in professional settings from time to time and I actually have mad respect for her now. I just wish I could tell her why I was rude to her. When we were in high school together, she was friends with my boyfriend at the time. He was not a nice man, not boy, he was an adult and I was a teen. And he often belittled me and often called me a S. He would also show me emails that this girl would send him about me and was basically her begging him to dump me. I understand now that for her, she was just being a friend to her friend based on whatever he told her about me and him. He showed me those messages to further isolate me from my peers. You should tell her. That's a pretty solid reason, Emo. Not knowing the full picture before opening your mouth sucks. A colleague of mine accidentally cut her hand with a scalpel after using it. A week later she had an infection that was causing fever which led to her being brought into hospital. I found this out from my boss at the time who seemed concerned about her at the time and was wondering when she'd be back to work. Not thinking much about it, I contacted my colleague to see if she was okay and if I could bring her in anything. All was well luckily and she was just starting to feel better. So I just mentioned our boss had been asking when she'd be back to work in case she needed someone to cover for her. This sent her through the freaking roof. Supposedly my boss was contacting her repeated asking her to come back to work as became ill and while she was in hospital, harassing her. I got pointed out as being her spy and that was it. She aimed all her anger at me, not believing for a second that I was just trying to see how she was. Rather than anger a sick person further, I just left her with a get well soon. Every time I remember it I cringe at how inconsiderate I was to her and how I handled the situation. 3 years on and even at conferences she gives me a look that would kill. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.